morning and welcome to Fashion and Lifestyle. I'm Siobhan Harton and I'm here with a wonderful lady called Kim Doherty, who's an artist facilitator. Kim is here to tell us about leadership, and it's leadership with a difference. It's leadership with emotional intelligence. So Kim, welcome to Fashion and Lifestyle. I'm absolutely delighted to have you on here.
Thanks a million, Siobhan. Thanks for having me on.
Welcome. And you're going to be talking about leadership. What is leadership and with emotional?
Yeah, the reason I'm talking about emotional intelligence as regards leadership is there really are so many definitions of leadership. For me, leadership is the ability to inspire and motivate others and to guide them towards a vision, whether that's a collaborative vision or a vision of their own. But leadership in the context of emotional intelligence is a little bit different, and I feel it's relevant for us in the arts world or in the arts facilitator world, really, because there's four parts to it. Now, before I get into that,
leadership or
to emotional intelligence.
Okay.
Yeah, and before I get into that, I probably should say it's not a new concept. It's been around since the 1930s, but Daniel Goleman made it popular in the late 1990s because he published a piece in the Harvard Business Review on emotional intelligence, and in fact that actual issue, sales for that were 40% higher because there was such an interest in emotional intelligence. And really, when you break it down, it's based on these four domains of emotional leadership. Firstly, it's self-awareness. That's knowing yourself, being aware of your emotions. Then you have self-management. It's managing those emotions, and understanding that you might have negative thoughts, positive thoughts. Then you look at social awareness, and the biggest part of social awareness is actually empathy, because it's the ability to perceive these emotions in other people.
Right.
And then lastly, the fourth part of it is relationship management, and that's really where, just as it sounds, you're dealing with how you relate to people, how you build rapport. But for me, I suppose what's been the big learning curve is actually the biological aspect to this. These mirror neurons.
Okay, what's mirror neurons? I can't even pronounce it.
Yeah.
Mirror neurons.
Mirror neurons. And
okay.
Really and truly, it's something quite simple. So as we're talking, Siobhan, the mirror neurons in our brains are lighting up because we're building rapport. We're building what's called resonance.
Okay, so this is kind of like the connection when you meet someone first, is it, or the conversation starts?
Absolutely.
It lights up.
Even they describe it as when two people are about to kiss. It's that dance of how their faces literally seem to naturally
or the awkwardness. In some cases.
Yeah, so if you're feeling socially awkward,
right,
then yeah, that absolutely comes across. But when you're relaxed and you're in a good place, you're much better able to connect. And the reason it's so important within the arts world, and certainly for my work, is because there can be a negative impact of stress. If you're stressed, these stress hormones flood the brain. So your higher functioning, like memory, like planning, like creativity, they can't happen in that situation.
Because you're not thinking clearly.
You're not thinking clearly at all. You're just really there, but you're not present. Okay, so let's say either myself or yourself, Siobhan, are going in and we're going to run an art workshop today. First of all, we need to have ourselves gathered together.
Yeah.
But then the participants that are there, we need to have an awareness of how they are, and we create that safe space then, or that safe environment for them to be able to get creative, because without that, I suppose, confidence, and even within yourself, like if you were having a bad day, you might come in and you mightn't have the confidence to sit in front of the camera. Or from myself, if I was having a bad day, I think, can't go in and face this interview now.
Yeah.
So that's why emotional intelligence is actually so important. So it's not just important for leaders or for people within the business world, even though it absolutely is, because they have such an impact on the people that they deal with and their working environment. But it's important for each and every one of us, because it's all about your self-confidence. It's about how you relate to others, essentially.
Yeah. So it's kind of like centering yourself before you go in and run a workshop. And to kind of get yourself connected with yourself, that you know what's going on, and being aware of everything that's going on in the room and making people comfortable. Yeah, before they come into the workshop or when they're in the workshop.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what a natural leader would do. They would have this emotional awareness, as I say. They would be regulating their own emotions. They would have this awareness of the other people who are there. So really, you're sort of saying it starts with me, but my mood is contagious.
Right, because some people, when they come, when they come into a room, you can feel their mood. You can really feel their mood.
And that is those mirror neurons. That's the biological aspect of it. And the reason, I suppose, the mirror neurons are so important is because that's how children learn in play. It's actually a mimicry. It's
right.
And that's why I suppose I certainly would be inspired now to continue on this study and to look into play therapy, because I'd like to know more about it. And in terms of play and attachment, it's extremely important. So our mood definitely affects how we see others. And then it's also, that's why it's so important in terms of leadership, because if you have a boss who's always constantly in a bad mood putting you down, then your productivity decreases.
Yeah. Well, you see that with kids, because I would run workshops with children as well. And once you praise them and keep encouraging them, now you don't have to say they're brilliant, like the people that you see in the X Factor, you know, the way you see people on X Factor, and you kind of go, how do people tell them that they're actually good when they're not? You know, it's not that kind of praise, but, you know, encouraging them to kind of steering them in a positive direction, you know, and getting them to focus on their strengths.
Absolutely. So in terms of emotional intelligence, if you were to look at it, and I'll just show you this book actually, because it's available in Calvin Library, and this one here is called The New Leaders.
If you hold it up a little bit higher, we hold it up to the camera there,
Yeah. So it's called The New Leaders, and it's by Daniel Goleman, and basically it's emotional intelligence. But in terms of leadership, and as I say,
so this is a really good book to read. If people out there wanted to know a little bit more about what Kim's talking about in emotional intelligence in leadership, in a leadership role, which is really, really important.
It is.
This is a really good start-off book, is it?
It is a really good book, but the great thing about emotional intelligence in general is that it can have an impact on your life. As I say, he breaks down these 4 domains, but then there's another piece in the book which is all about you,
because it starts with yourself. It starts with yourself, looking at yourself as a leader.
Absolutely.
Before you kind of go out.
And again, that was a real learning curve for me within this brief, because self-care is a huge thing.
Massive. And
building resilience, because as a people person, and you would be the same, we're always, I think, pretty tuned into other people. You know, sometimes I would be a person who may struggle with saying no, but you actually have to put yourself first, because if you overstretch yourself and then you go in and you're having a bad day, then, you know, your workshop's not going to work out very well. It doesn't
run smooth. Nothing goes right.
No.
Nothing goes right. It's like that moment when you wake up in the morning and you kind of go, oh, this is going to be a bad one.
Exactly.
And the whole day goes wrong, you know, when you start off on a stressed day.
That's exactly it. And especially in terms of creativity, it has a huge impact, you know, because I suppose the negative impact of stress is huge. Literally, as I said, these stress hormones can really hijack the brain, and all that higher functioning like memory, planning, creativity goes out the window. So you really have to be aware of your own processes, but also other people. Yeah.
So how do people become aware then? You know, if you were to, in that sense, if other people say, someone says that they were kind of shut down to emotionally, or, you know, to become aware, or they feel a bit nervous about what you're talking about.
Yeah, so really what you need to do, it's a self-assessment. If you wanted to look at Daniel Goleman's work, you can look up www.eiconsortium.org, and there are loads of links there in terms of assessments. There's one called the 360 assessment, and that's really where you, I suppose, you type in what you would usually do and you'll get some feedback. Okay.
Yeah.
Then in terms of this book, I actually found this book a great starting point.
Right.
Because first of all, you're looking at self-awareness, and it's called Boise's theory of self-directed learning. And really, first of all, there is this self-assessment, and then you're looking at your ideal self then. So what would I ideally like, what would I like to be like? So this is what you'd
like to be like, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's this difference between your ideal self and your real self. And then, simply put, you want to bridge that gap between those two places.
Okay, so it's like stepping stones to get to your ideal self that you put in place.
Exactly. And then the third part of that then is where you need, again, to connect with other people to see, are you on the right track? Do you need mentors? Do you need support? Or do you need to do a course? And then again, you're experimenting with new behaviours, because it's like when you were mentioning when someone is particularly awkward with a kiss or whatever it is, when you start off first, you might be a little bit inclined to sabotage yourself. So you have to sort of practice all these new behaviours and check in with someone else. And
And actually, often the people that know you best will be the ones that will be able to tell you as well.
Absolutely.
Where they are, you know, and sometimes they mightn't want to say it, but definitely ask them.
Yeah, and I think maybe you need to identify people from maybe 2, 3, 4 parts of your life and ask them.
So what parts would that be, would you say?
I would say your workplace, definitely. You need one person who's a reliable source. You don't want, again, someone who's going to be a huge critic.
Yeah, you want someone trustworthy,
initially.
that, you know, you value their opinion.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
but then maybe they'll tell you straight as well, you know. And then someone from your home life, again, another trusted source, because sometimes we can be two different people inside of and outside of work.
Yeah, and at home, and absolutely, I mean, in your parental home and your own home.
Absolutely.
You know, it can be different too.
Absolutely. And then even within the public sphere, like we have Facebook, we have Twitter, so we need to look at people we consider maybe leaders and follow what they're doing.
Yeah. Would you have any good examples of leadership, or you know, that use this emotional intelligence?
In terms of emotional intelligence, I actually feel within the arts area we're all using it intuitively.
Right.
And that's one thing from this book. I think we've come in here and we've put it like there's a wonderful title, and absolutely it's a brilliant practice. But I think it's only now for me that I suppose these connections, there's names for me being put on them, and I have a much better understanding through this work. But I think within the arts world, it's certainly been happening really intuitively for so long. Like we have a wonderful arts office who are very supportive.
Oh, so Katrina and Rhonda.
Yeah,
amazing.
They're super.
They're fantastic.
Yeah, and
actually.
even in community and enterprise, Emer is brilliant there. So we've all these people locally. Yourselves here in Dublin Media and Cavan TV, you're showcasing local talent. Then in terms of learning, we have the course. The course I've just completed is called the Advanced Diploma in Female Entrepreneurship, and if people want to find out more about that,
that's the course that you're doing.
Yeah.
And actually, so we're actually going to go to a break, and we'll talk more about that course when we come back. So we're actually going to go to a quick commercial break, and we'll be back after this to talk about the course that Kim has done, and it's on female entrepreneurship and more about this fascinating subject, which is leadership with emotional intelligence.